Ladies and gentlemen, there's a rhythm to success, a pace, a pattern, a curve, and if you're not aware of it, you might mistake slow progress for no progress at all. The growth curve is nature's reminder that everything worth having demands seasons of planting, tending, waiting, and finally, harvesting. Most people want the harvest the moment they throw the seed in the ground. They want the reward without the routine, the result without the repetition. But the growth curve doesn't work like that. It asks for patience. It asks for discipline. And it rewards only those who show up long enough to see the momentum kick in. At first, growth is invisible. You show up, you work, you repeat, and it feels like nothing is happening. But underneath the surface, in the unseen realm of habits and character, roots are forming. Strength is forming. Identity is forming. You are becoming the kind of person who can handle the harvest when it arrives. Then one day, slowly, quietly, the curve begins to bend. Effort turns into results. Discipline becomes lifestyle. Consistency becomes confidence. And all the tiny steps that once felt insignificant begin to compound. The growth curve favors no one and challenges everyone. But if you respect it, if you stay on the track when it's boring, tiring, or discouraging, it will eventually lift you higher than you imagine. So stay patient, stay consistent, stay hungry. Your curve is rising even if you can't see it yet. There's a strange moment in every journey where you're giving your best, you're showing up every day, you're doing the work. But it feels like absolutely nothing is happening. No applause, no results, no obvious signs that you're moving forward. And this is the moment where most people panic. They start thinking something's wrong with the process, or wrong with them, or wrong with the dream altogether. But that silence, that stillness is not a sign of failure. It's the birthplace of growth. Look at nature. You plant a seed and for weeks, nothing shows above the ground. If you didn't understand how growth works, you'd think the seed was dead. You'd think the soil swallowed it whole. But underground in that dark, hidden territory, the seed is breaking open. It's forming roots. It's strengthening itself before it dares to push upward into the world. We humans aren't much different. When you start a new habit, a new routine, a new goal, the early stages feel invisible. You go to the gym for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and the mirror looks exactly the same. You start a business and the results are tiny, inconsistent, or non-existent. You work on your mindset and you still feel the old thoughts pulling you back. But this is just the root stage. This is the part no one sees, but it's the part that determines everything. Growth begins in the hidden places inside your discipline, your thinking, your character, your belief system. And because these things don't show up on the outside immediately, most people never stay with the process long enough to let the visible results appear. They quit the gym right before the body begins to change. They give up on the business right before momentum kicks in. They abandon the dream right before the breakthrough. That's the tragedy of impatience. You dig up the seed right before it sprouts. The growth curve teaches us patience. It teaches us to stop expecting instant everything. In a world where people want overnight success, you become powerful when you understand the beauty of slow, silent, steady growth. Because the truth is, anything that grows too fast usually collapses. Anything that's built without roots gets blown over by the first strong wind. The silent stage is not punishment, it's protection. It's shaping you into someone who can handle the results you're asking for. Think about it. If success came instantly without preparation, without inner strength, most people would ruin it. They wouldn't have the discipline to manage it, the character to sustain it, or the wisdom to multiply it. Silence builds the person before it reveals the results. When you're showing up every day and you feel like nothing is happening, that's actually when the most important transformation is happening. You're learning discipline. You're building consistency. You're proving to yourself that you can do the work without needing immediate rewards. And that mindset alone separates you from the majority. Every great achiever in history went through a long invisible season. They studied while no one noticed. They practiced while no one clapped. They showed up while no one cared. And one day, the world called them an overnight success. But the overnight part wasn't success, it was visibility. The real success was built during the nights no one saw. So the next time you feel like your growth is slow or invisible, don't get discouraged. Get excited. It means you're in the foundational stage. It means the roots are forming. It means the thing you're building is going to last. Trust the silence. Respect the unseen work. Stay consistent even when the scoreboard isn't moving. Because all growth, every kind, in every area of life begins silently before it becomes visible. And if you honor that truth, you'll be one of the few who reach the part where the visible results finally show up and show up big. Here's the thing a lot of people get wrong. They think setting a goal automatically lifts them to a higher level, as if writing it down transforms them into a new person overnight. But goals don't change you, habits do. Goals give you direction, but habits give you elevation. Think of goals like a map. They tell you where you want to go, but a map doesn't move you. Only your steps do. And your habits are the steps you take every single day, whether you feel like it or not. Most people love the goal-setting part because it's exciting, inspiring, and clean. It feels like you're doing something big when you declare, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to build a business, I'm going to become financially free, or I'm going to improve my mindset. But goals are only the promise. Habits are the price. And you can't get the promise without paying the price. You don't become fit because you want to, you become fit because you consistently train, hydrate, rest, and eat right. You don't become wealthy because you wish to, you become wealthy because you manage money wisely, learn continuously, build skills, and take practical action. You don't become confident because you wrote it in a journal, you become confident because you repeatedly face the small fears until the big ones don't scare you anymore. Habits are the machinery behind every transformation. They're not glamorous. They're not exciting. They're not dramatic. They're slow, repetitive, and sometimes boring. But they're powerful, unbelievably powerful, because they compound. One disciplined action won't change your life. But one disciplined action repeated thousands of times, that will build a future that doesn't even look like your past. Here's the truth a lot of people avoid. Your life today is the accumulation of the habits you've carried for years. Not the dreams, not the hopes, not the goals, the habits. If someone rarely reads, rarely exercises, rarely reflects, rarely saves money, rarely challenges themselves, it doesn't matter how big their goals are, their life will stay stuck at their habit level. Meanwhile, someone with small goals but powerful habits will outperform them every single time, because habits beat intention every day of the week. This is why two people can set the same goal and end up in completely different places. They both wrote it down. They both felt motivated. They both said they wanted it. But only one adjusted their daily behavior to align with the goal. Only one made the commitment to show up even on the days when motivation disappeared. Goals rely on inspiration. Habits rely on discipline. And discipline is far more trustworthy. Think of habits like the backstage crew in a theater. They're not visible, but they make the entire show possible. The audience claps for the performance, but the real magic happens behind the curtains. That's your habits. Quiet, steady, reliable, transformative. There's another side to this too: bad habits. People sometimes forget they're practicing habits even when they're not aware of it. Scrolling for hours is a habit. Complaining is a habit. Procrastinating is a habit. Doubting yourself is a habit. And these habits can be just as consistent as the good ones, but instead of lifting you, they quietly lower your potential. Not all at once, slowly, daily, invisibly. So if you ever want to predict someone's future, don't ask them about their goals. Ask them about their habits. What time do they wake up? What do they read? Who do they listen to? How do they use their evenings? What do they do when they're tired? What do they do when no one is watching? That's the truth of who they are becoming. If you want to rise higher, don't make bigger goals, build better habits. Make them small enough to be repeatable, meaningful enough to create change, and consistent enough to create identity. Because once your habits become part of who you are, success stops feeling forced. It becomes automatic. You won't be dragging yourself forward anymore. Your habits will do the pulling. You don't rise to your goals. You rise to your habits. And when you upgrade your habits, the goals that once felt out of reach suddenly feel natural, almost inevitable. There's a kind of magic that shows up when you start doing the right things, not just once, not just when you're inspired, not just when the stars line up, but every single day. And that magic is called consistency. Most people underestimate it because it doesn't feel dramatic. It doesn't give you that big rush. It's not flashy or exciting, but it's the quiet engine behind every long-term success story. Intensity is the big sprint, that burst of energy you feel when motivation hits you like a wave. You've seen this before. Someone goes to the gym for 6 hours on day 1, eats perfectly for 2 days, and then disappears for the next 3 months. Or someone starts a business, stays up all night planning, makes a dozen calls the first day, and then burns out by the end of the week. Intensity burns bright, but burns out fast. Consistency burns slow, but burns forever. Intensity is emotional. Consistency is structural. One is a feeling. The other is a lifestyle. And here's the wild part. Life doesn't reward the intense. Life rewards the consistent. Think about a drop of water. One drop does nothing. But that same drop, falling every second, can carve through stone. That's consistency. Small, repeated effort creating massive change that looks impossible from the outside. The human mind loves intensity because it feels heroic. It feels like you're doing something great. You get to say, look at me, I went all in. But success rarely comes from going all in, it comes from staying in. And consistency is staying in even when the mood has left the room. Here's a hard truth people dodge. The results you want are not tied to what you do sometimes. They're tied to what you do usually. If you usually save money, your finances grow. If you usually read, your mind grows. If you usually exercise, your health grows. If you usually take action, your confidence grows. But if your actions depend on your mood, you'll have mood-level results inconsistent, unpredictable, unstable. Consistency stabilizes your future. Now, here's something important. Consistency doesn't mean doing a lot. It means doing a little every day. You can show up for 10 minutes and accomplish more over a year than someone who shows up for 3 hours but only once a month. Why? Because consistency turns actions into habits, and habits turn into identity. Intensity says, do everything today. Consistency says, do something today. Guess which one wins long term? The growth curve we talked about earlier really kicks in here. When you show up consistently, even with small actions, your progress compounds. It layers, it multiplies, it gathers momentum. Before you know it, the work that once felt heavy becomes part of who you are. You don't have to force it anymore, it becomes your natural rhythm. Another thing, consistency builds trust with yourself. That's huge. Every time you follow through, even on a tiny commitment, you tell yourself, I can rely on me. And when you trust yourself, your confidence rises. Your focus sharpens. Your discipline solidifies. Suddenly, you're not fighting your old patterns anymore, you're building new ones effortlessly. Intensity doesn't do that. In fact, intensity often destroys trust because it sets unrealistic standards you can't maintain. You try to go all out, you can't keep it up, and then you feel like you failed. But you didn't fail, the method failed. You tried to sprint a marathon. Consistency is honest. It meets you where you are. It grows with you instead of crushing you. Think of it like this. One intense workout won't get you in shape. One intense study session won't make you smart. One intense conversation won't build a relationship. One intense prayer won't change your spirit. But daily practice, daily devotion, daily effort, that's where the transformation happens. If intensity is like a lightning bolt powerful, but brief consistency is like the sun. It rises every day. And because it rises every day, it gives life. So the next time you feel like you need to go all in, slow down. Go just enough in and do it daily. Set small habits, simple routines, repeatable actions. Build your future brick by brick, not explosion by explosion. Because consistency is more powerful than intensity. And the moment you understand that, deeply understand it, your life stops being unpredictable and starts becoming unstoppable. If there's one lesson life keeps teaching over and over again, quietly, stubbornly, almost annoyingly, it's that the little things matter way more than people think. Not the big swings, not the dramatic moments, not the once-in-a-while heroic efforts. The tiny, almost invisible disciplines you repeat every single day. Those are the real architects of your future. Here's the funny part. Small disciplines never feel powerful in the moment. They feel too simple, too quiet, too easy to ignore. Reading 10 pages? What difference does that make today? Saving a small amount of money? doesn't change anything this week. Stretching for 10 minutes, you don't suddenly become an athlete. Speaking kindly to yourself in the mirror doesn't instantly erase years of doubt. But that's exactly why most people overlook these small disciplines. They don't produce fireworks. They don't create applause. They don't give immediate gratification. And because they don't feel important today, people assume they don't matter tomorrow. Massive mistake. Life works in layers. Nothing big ever grows big. Everything big starts small. The little choices you make every day either pull you closer to your future or slowly drift you away from it. There is no neutral behavior. Every habit is either building you or breaking you. Think of small disciplines like drops of water. A single drop is nothing, but a steady drip over weeks, months, years. Not because it's strong, but because it's consistent. That's the power of repetition. That's the power of small. Now here's the deeper truth. Small disciplines build something much more important than results. They build identity. When you wake up early, even when you don't want to, a small part of you says, I'm disciplined. When you choose a healthy meal over junk, a small part of you says, I respect my body. When you spend 20 minutes learning every day, a small part of you says, I'm growing. And identity is what makes future discipline easier. You don't have to push yourself as hard when the behavior becomes who you are. That's why small disciplines are so unbelievably powerful. They're not just actions, they're self-definitions. Every time you follow through on a small promise, you reinforce a deeper belief. I can trust myself. Let's be honest, anyone can be disciplined for a day. Anyone can be motivated for a week. But the person who practices small disciplines daily becomes unbeatable. Not because they're more talented, but because they're more consistent. They remove the drama from improvement. They remove the emotion from growth. They rely on systems instead of moods. And the results? They don't show up all at once. They sneak up on you. One day you look at your body and think, wow, when did that change? One day you open your bank account and realize you've built stability. One day someone compliments your thinking, your confidence, your communication, and you realize all those tiny daily practices finally surfaced. People outside will call it sudden improvement, but you'll know it wasn't sudden at all. It was built in silence, one tiny action at a time. There's another layer to this too. Small disciplines protect you from the overwhelm of big goals. When you try to take on too much at once, you freeze. You procrastinate. You feel like you're trying to lift a mountain with one hand. But when you break the mountain into tiny pebbles, when you shrink the discipline to something doable, the whole journey becomes lighter. Instead of reading a book, you read 2 pages. Instead of running 10 kilometers, you walk for 10 minutes. Instead of writing a whole chapter, you write 1 paragraph. Instead of transforming your whole life overnight, you transform 1 decision today. Small disciplines remove excuses. That's their hidden magic. They don't require perfect conditions, superhuman motivation, or huge chunks of time. They only require willingness. And willingness is something you can access every day. But here's the catch. Small disciplines only work when you repeat them long enough to let the compounding effect do its thing. You can't plant tiny seeds and dig them up every 3 days to check the roots. You water them. You trust the process. You keep showing up. Before long, those small, simple, unimpressive actions become the reason your entire life looks different. Because massive results don't come from massive effort, they come from small disciplines practiced daily, patiently, and faithfully. And once you understand that, your growth stops depending on big breakthroughs and starts depending on small decisions you can make every day. If someone ever asks you, what will your life look like in 5 years? Don't look at your dreams. Don't even look at your goals. Look at your routine. Look at what you do every single day without fail, because your daily routine is the clearest mirror of your future. It quietly predicts your health, your confidence, your finances, your relationships, your skills, and even your satisfaction with life. Most people think the future is shaped by big decisions, huge turning points, sudden bursts of inspiration, one lucky opportunity. But the truth is far less dramatic and far more practical. Your future is hiding inside the rhythms you repeat. If your routine is scattered, your future will be scattered. If your routine is disciplined, your future will be disciplined. If your routine is reactive, your future will be full of chaos. If your routine is intentional, your future will be purposeful. Your routine is like a quiet architect designing your destiny in the background while you're not even thinking about it. Here's the tricky part. Routines often feel too ordinary to seem powerful. They don't feel like life-changing events. Waking up early doesn't feel like a big deal. Reading a chapter doesn't feel like progress. Saving a small amount of money doesn't feel like wealth building. Practicing a skill for 15 minutes doesn't feel like mastery. But what's ordinary today becomes extraordinary over time. Your routine is basically who you are when motivation disappears. Because anyone can act disciplined when they're excited. Anyone can show up when things are fun. The real question is, what do you do on the boring days? The tired days? The stressed out days? The days when nobody is watching and nobody is cheering? That's your routine. And that's your real future. Let's break it down. If you want a strong body, it's not built by occasional wild workouts, it's built by daily movement. If you want a sharp mind, it's not built by binge learning, it's built by daily reading, reflection, and curiosity. If you want financial stability, it's not built by one big payoff, it's built by daily discipline with money. If you want deep relationships, it's not built by grand gestures, it's built by daily communication, attention, and care. Your routine basically whispers your future before it becomes loud. Most people don't realize that their daily habits are little votes for the person they're becoming. Every day you repeat something, you cast another vote. Eventually, the votes add up. Identity forms, future shifts, outcomes become inevitable. And here's a beautiful thing. You don't need a perfect routine. You just need a consistent one. You don't have to overhaul your entire life. You just have to shape the edges. Want a better future? Start by changing one part of your morning, one part of your evening, one part of your day. Small shifts in routine create massive shifts in direction. People love to talk about luck, but luck is usually just preparation meeting opportunity, and preparation lives inside your routine. Someone with a strong daily routine is simply more ready when life throws an opening their way. They're more confident, more capable, more grounded. They don't panic when a big chance shows up because their routine already built the skills to handle it. On the flip side, a weak routine catches up to you sooner or later. If you spend your days scrolling, wandering, reacting, and drifting, you won't notice the damage in one day or 1 week, but eventually it shows up. In your energy, in your focus, in your income, in your relationships, in your self-respect. Your routine quietly shapes you even when you're not paying attention. A lot of people want a better future but keep repeating the same days. You can't repeat the same routines and expect different outcomes. The future doesn't respond to wishes, it responds to patterns. But here's the empowering part. Routines are completely in your control. You get to design them. You get to adjust them. You get to experiment with them. You get to break the bad ones and build the good ones. And you don't need anyone's permission to start. The moment you change your routine, you change your trajectory. Not overnight, not instantly, but inevitably. Because daily rhythms compound. They build momentum. They build identity. They build outcomes. So if you ever catch yourself wondering where your life is headed, don't look far. Just look at your day. Look at what you repeatedly do. Because your future isn't a mystery, it's already visible in your routine, quietly waiting to become your reality.